falling, or the wind blows and the rain is pouring, it will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year I wanna hang out with my friends and family, making angels in the sand, you and me. Doesn't matter, it is Christmas in my heart. And I can promise Santa's coming to visit. No, he wouldn't miss this in Christmas times. Oh, and the sunset is just getting better on a blanket with the skyline painted in blue. Ooh.
As the Grinch says, maybe Christmas doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas perhaps means a little bit more. Now, I'm not denying that this video isn't going to be jam-packed with a ton of Christmas decor and Christmas decorating ideas, but I am a big advocate of embracing the memories. So I recently asked on my community tab, what is your favorite thing about Christmas? And by far the majority said, I love everything about Christmas. Spending time with family, all the Christmas food and traditions, all of the decorating and lights, and giving and receiving gifts. Now, I am 100% the same way. I love everything about Christmas. Therefore, I tend to go a little above and beyond while decorating our house. This is the first of several Christmas videos that I will be creating, and this video in particular, I am starting off in our living room and decorating our 12-foot Christmas tree. Now, I will be including several tips that I use to help get my Christmas tree up, and I did create a video last year on how I did it step by step. So many of you guys found those tips helpful, but a lot of questions on some of the products I use and where to get them. So I'll be explaining a little bit more in detail to make it a lot helpful for you. So luckily this year went a lot smoother than last year. If you saw last year's video, I'll give you a recap a little bit later on. But for now, the first thing that I'm going to do is work on the living room area and Christmas trees. That is the hardest thing to do. I don't know, what do you guys start with? Do you guys normally start with your Christmas tree, or do you start with other smaller decorations? Our Christmas tree is a huge project, so I start with the hardest thing and then I start decorating after that. So the first thing I have to do is rearrange our living room a little bit, move some of the furniture out, push the couch back. But whenever I do all that, I always notice how completely dirty the rug is. So I tend to kind of clean up first, and I'm going to shampoo the rug before I get started and bring out all of the glitter and all of the mess that comes with the Christmas tree.
Sleigh bells ringing, diamonds blinging, carols singing, favorite season. Sleigh bells ringing, diamonds blinging, carols singing, favorite season. They said, Saint Nick, what you got up in that bag, yeah. I got racks in my sack or in my bag, yeah. They said, Saint Nick, what you got up in that bag, yeah. I got racks in my sack or in my bag, yeah. Frozen, neck is frozen, catch me rolling.
So I did do this last year. I shampooed all of our carpets, and I'm just going to go off of a lot of feedback I received from last year. Whenever we shampoo, I do not do a whole lot of water. Whenever you press the button, it controls how much water comes out, and a lot of concerns about, if it seeps through and hitting the wood underneath. But I pretty much check it. I also have a rug pad underneath, which is what I'm doing there to make sure that it didn't get too wet underneath so it doesn't ruin the wood. But while I have the Bissell shampooer out, I'm also going to take care of this runner rug in the kitchen.
Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, and Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen.
Do you guys typically do a bigger deep clean before you decorate, or do you kind of decorate and then go in and do a deep clean? Leave me a comment below and let me know how your decorating cleaning process goes. Before I get started decorating, I wanted to quickly share that I am so excited to collaborate with Bright Cellars Wine. Bright Cellars is a monthly wine club that matches the wine you'll love. All you have to do is take a quick 7-question quiz online, and then they gather your taste preferences and then deliver the wines straight to your door. For me, it's a great option to try new wines that I probably have never tried before or never even thought to try. Each box is delivered straight to your door, and it also comes with wine education cards that outline tasting notes or suggested pairings, serving temperature, and the origin of the wine. So I am typically a red wine drinker, and I enjoy drinking a glass of wine during dinner or if I'm just socializing with some friends. So the very first wine that I decided to try was the Alonium, which I have never heard of before, and it was really good. My favorite was the Vanishing Act and the Folk and Fable. And the best thing about Bright Cellars is that they offer wines your typical grocery store will not carry, including a lot of private label wines from all over the world, which I would never be able to find locally. So who doesn't love getting a few festive bottles of wine at their doorstep this time of year? Even if you are not a wine drinker, this could be a really unique gift idea, as they offer gift card options as well. Bright Cellars is giving all of you guys 50% off your first 6-bottle box for $45, which is an awesome value. So make sure you follow the link below and take the quiz to get started. The first area that I'm going to start decorating is the little console table that kind of overlooks the kitchen and living room area. So last year I put a garland on the top, but this year what I'm going to do is use these cluster lights that I got from Amazon. They are a little bit different than standard lights, and there is that little button. There's an option to change the settings, so you can make them blink, you can make them stay still. I think there might be 7 different options, and then you can also connect them if needed. So these are my absolute favorite type of lights. I use similar lights like this on my Christmas tree, which you'll see later on, and I had so many questions about the lights that I used for the Christmas tree. I got them at a Christmas market, and the company is called Paul Michael. However, when I looked on their website this year, I could not find a link to the exact lights. So what I did this year was try to find similar lights on Amazon. That way I could link them and you could easily get them. These are a little bit different than the ones from my tree, so what I ended up doing was using them on this console table. So the good thing about using like these little LED lights, or just LED lights in general, is that they take up way less electricity, and they don't go out as easy. So I ended up talking Chris, which is my husband, into getting LED lights for all of our outside because our breaker box kept blowing, and he was hesitant because they were a lot more expensive. But last year we replaced all of our outside lights, switched them to LED lights. We never had issues with the lights just going out from the breaker box popping, and my electricity bill was cut in half from the previous years. So I highly recommend checking out any type of LED lights. These are specifically called cluster lights, and this option in general, I'm just showing you an example of the different settings that you can change it to. So once I got that wrapped, I'll probably come back to that area a little bit later. I'm going to start pulling out our tall pencil mini trees. So these 2 trees I got from Michael's last year during a sale, and they are 7-foot pencil flocked trees, and they are beautiful.
Oh, it's Christmas time. I feel sad, I can't help it. Got you on my mind. I don't know how to cope this.
Last year, we incorporated a lot of flocked trees, and I know that one of my big concerns was how much of a mess is this going to make? So what I noticed was that some trees will shed more than others. These trees from Michael's are not bad shedders, as well as my main 12-foot tree, but some of my other flocked trees, when I get to them, maybe in another video, I'll just show you how much they shed. So one tip when putting up your trees, well, what I always do is that I don't put the whole tree up. I always go from section to section. So you want the tree to look full, even if it's slim or not. So basically you want to make sure you're almost touching every single branch and just spreading them out in different directions. It's so much easier to do when you do it section by section, opposed to trying to put the whole tree up and then just going through and spreading out a few pieces. Now it is a little bit more time consuming, but this way you won't have like flattened areas. You'll make sure that the whole tree is evenly full and kind of almost looks like a real Christmas tree. Now, this is another obvious tip. Make sure that you check the lights to see if they work before you put the whole tree together and unfluff it. Now, if you haven't seen my video from last year, you'll know that we put up our 12-foot Christmas tree and only one section of lights worked. Now, luckily, it wasn't fluffed or decorated or anything, but that was like a huge disaster. Now, I'll give you the backstory on that a little bit. So last year, I had kind of just started my YouTube channel, and Christmas is a huge deal in the YouTube world. These clean and decorate videos are a huge deal, and I probably had about 200 subscribers at the time, and I just said to myself, you know, Christmas is my holiday. Like, that is what I go all out for. So this year, this video is going to be absolutely perfect. Now, I don't know if I was jinxed or it was just because it was 2020, but absolutely, like, everything I tried to make perfect went wrong. And I was like in tears some days because I was like, this is not going well. Maybe this isn't right. And you know, what I ended up doing was saying, this is absolutely real life. Like, the tree's not going to work. The lights are going to go out. I'm going to blow all of these fuses or these, you know, LED lights, and, you know, my kids are going to spill nail polish all over the floor. And that is exactly what happened. So I said, you know, let me just go with it and show you guys how it really goes sometimes. If you haven't seen the movie Christmas Vacation, it just reminded me of the Griswolds, where I wanted everything to go perfect, and I just said that I'm having a Griswold moment. And I feel like that happens to everyone. It all ends up working out in the end, and that's what I want you to get out of this. So if you're struggling to get your decor up, then just say to yourself, you're having a Griswold moment, laugh about it, and know that it'll look fantastic in the end. So leave me a comment below with your Griswold moment for this year. So the branches that I just put in there, I did get this year from Costco, and they are battery operated. So I am going to come back around to this area a little later on in the video. But as you can see, it didn't shed too bad. Took up the other two boxes to put those away, and now I'm bringing down two more. These are more like 3-foot Christmas trees. I got these from Michael's probably almost 7 years ago, and I had these last year on either side of the stairs. So one of my Griswold moments this year was I was bummed that only half of the lights worked on this tree, and on the other tree they were all out. So these pre-lit trees do have the standard lights. They're not special LED lights. And what I could do is go, I guess, light by light and replacing the bulbs and seeing which bulb is out. I don't know. Do you guys do that? I got lots of feedback last year. I should have, you know, tried to figure out on my big tree which lights were causing majority of the tree to be out, but that takes a lot of time. Let me know what y'all would do. What I think I'm going to end up doing is just adding my own lights and then moving these outside at the front porch. So we'll just make the most of this not so bad Griswold moment.
Christmas time is pulling me closer to your heart.
Now, as we move on to start putting up the big tree in the living room, I do have to move out some of the side tables in order to make space for it to come in.
I wanna get to know you better.
So typically this is just what happens when you have a light colored rug, is that whenever you move the furniture around, you can really see how dirty your rug gets. I like having the rug closer to the fireplace, so that's why I didn't just like push the whole rug back with it. But this angle makes it look a lot worse than it does in person, I'll just say. But I've already shampooed it. I've done the best I can, and right now we're just going to let it be.
Ooh, 'cause I got my love to keep me warm. Winter weather, I love the winter love. Christmas time is pulling us closer to each other.
So I store our big Christmas trees in this upstairs closet attic, and I typically do just about everything myself. Meaning I probably should be asking Chris, my husband, for help, but I stored up there. That way I don't have to wait on him. He's always working or busy, or he typically is working outside doing outside Christmas lights. So I've just found it easier to just make it accessible for me to get and kind of just do it all myself. So because this is a 12-foot tree, I have 2 different tree bags. The box did not fit in the attic, and I ended up getting these tree bags to store the pieces in. What I do is I take everything out upstairs and then bring it down piece by piece instead of trying to like bring the whole tree bag down. Now what I should have done was tested all of the lights and make sure they worked, but because this was kind of a new tree, I was hopeful and confident that they all still worked. So I'm putting the first layer in, and then I will go by and fluff out branch by branch. So this tree is a 12-foot flocked tree we got from a place called At Home Stores. Last year, yes, we bought a brand new tree. When our other trees' lights went out, that tree was a lot older, and we are giving that tree away to our neighbor. So lots of concerns on why we bought a new tree and just didn't add lights to the older tree. Well, Chris and I kind of didn't agree at first. He wanted to add lights and I didn't. I didn't go into detail in last year's video, and there was so many concerns about why we didn't add lights and just keep the older tree. So like I said last year, I wanted everything to be perfect, and I also wanted a flocked tree to match the rest of the decor. So if we kept that old tree, not only would I have had to add additional lights, which I do anyway, but I would have had to add more lights. Then I would have had to go in and spray paint or spray flocked that tree as well. So then the branches were also kind of flattened out because it was a older tree, 6 years old, and you know, this tree was a good deal. So I just went and got a new tree. I guess the bottom line is I just wanted to. So there is a whole backstory to getting this tree as well. That was an absolute nightmare. I will just link that video down below, and you can listen to like all the places we drove trying to find this tree. But the old tree is at a new home, and we're grateful for that. So let's get into some of the tips. So one of the first things that I do, because this is a massive tree, I'm only 5'4" and I cannot reach a 12-foot tree. I think the very first year I literally was up and down a ladder for like 3 hours trying to decorate. And what I realized is that I could just get a different stand and then decorate part of it on a different stand like it's a whole separate tree itself. So one of my first recommendations first is getting a tree that matches your space. We have almost 20-foot ceilings in our living room, so a 12-foot tree does not look too off. Now, if you're looking at getting like a 9-foot tree and you have a 10-foot ceiling, then just be sure that, remember that if you do decorate the top, you don't want the top pieces hitting the ceiling. So my next tip I already kind of mentioned is getting that second tree stand if you have a really tall tree. So I hardly ever use a ladder, but I do have my husband help me get that second piece on to the top once it's fully decorated. Be sure to be very careful if you do decide to do that. So my third tip is adding additional lights. So in a pre-lit tree, I don't believe that I've seen any tree with enough lights. So I always add additional lights, and regardless of how you decorate your tree, this is going to stand out the most. So I'll get back to lights in a second, but my fourth tip is adding it to a remote control plug. This allows you to not have to plug it in and out. You can control all of the lights just by the click of a button, and we get ours at Home Depot. All right, so back to the lights, and just bear with me because I am going to be doing a lot of explaining in this video if you can't already tell. These are called cluster lights. These are my absolute favorite lights, and I finally found the brand name is called Designer's Excellence, and these are where we got at the store called Paul Michael. Now, I really struggled to find these lights online and get a good link for y'all. but I think I have found the most similar ones that I can. And the key is getting the size. So some of these do not connect, like the ones I have do not connect to each other. So yes, I have like several strands of lights all plugged in, and some do connect to each other because again, these are specialty lights, not your typical plugs. So I am using 3 25-foot long of these cluster lights, and then I also had to buy an additional 10 feet. So for a 12-foot tree, I have a total of like 85 feet of lights. And honestly, I could have probably used more because I ran out at the top, and in the back, I don't do a very good job. I try and just get it all facing the front. Now, when I am putting it on the second section, I leave a space to where I can wrap around in the middle, and then I begin doing the bottom section. Whenever we connect the two pieces together, then I go back on a ladder and then fill in that blank spot. So what I recommend just for sizing for your own tree, I would personally prefer like 100 feet of lights for a 12-foot tree. I am also using the warm white on a green strand. So I am going to be having a how to decorate your Christmas tree video coming out with our smaller 7-foot tree in the dining room, and I use different types of lights that are really cool looking as well. So once I get all of the lights on, then my next tip is to add the ribbon. So these boxes are from At Home, and this is basically where I store all of our Christmas ornaments and picks, but at the very bottom is where I wrapped up all the ribbon that I'm trying to get to. So there's so many different ways that you can add ribbon, and I actually did a video last year on how to add ribbon to your Christmas tree. But what I do for the big tree is that I actually roll out all the ribbon and then cut it in pieces. Now on my other tree in the front room that I'll do in next video, I do not cut the ribbon. So I actually decorate it a lot differently than I do this one, but using the same steps. So in my opinion, if you decide to cut the ribbon, then I feel like you don't have to use as much ribbon, and they don't necessarily all need to be the same size. If you have some of the larger cut ribbons or longer pieces, then I would recommend putting those closer to the bottom where the tree is going to be more full than the top, and then cut a little bit of smaller pieces just by a few inches, and then you can use those to put closer to the top of the tree. So I layered the ribbon here just to give it more of a dramatic effect. You don't necessarily have to layer the ribbon, but what you're basically doing is going a little bit deep in the tree, grabbing a branch and hooking it in to hold it together, and then pulling the ribbon outward and then back in. You don't want to pull it straight down because then you won't get that round dimensional look. So what I'm doing next is just going through the whole tree, picking out 2 different ribbon to pair together, and then going in the longer pieces I'm putting closer to the bottom, the shorter cut pieces I'm putting closer to the top, and then I'm going to make sure I'm putting everything in the same direction, meaning that everything is going to be somewhat going vertically up. I don't have anything that's horizontal pieces. Keeping things going vertically just draws the eye upward and makes the tree look tall. Once I got the ribbon on, my next tip is to go in and add your picks and sprays, or if you have any longer pieces that kind of stick up, then go ahead and start decorating the top of your tree and adding in those picks and sprays. So obviously if there's something that you don't have, then just skip this step and go straight to the next step. But most of these decorations are from a collection of years, mainly from Hobby Lobby or Michael's. So as I've mentioned, this will be our 7th Christmas in this house with a big tree. So all of this stuff was accumulated over the last 7 years. So for the top of the tree, I had mentioned before, remember if you are putting like picks or some of the sprays at the top of the tree, see how it gives it an additional height? That's why you just want to be sure that the size of your tree won't hit the ceiling if you add those additional things at the top. So next I'm going to go through and just fill in some of the gaps and the holes that I see in the tree with those picks. So your tree should start already looking pretty full without even any ornaments on it. But your next step is to add specialty ornaments. These are the more important ornaments, the ones that may be more sentimental, not your traditional ball ornaments. You want these to be visible and shown, so you're going to add these next. So surprisingly, none of my ornaments are breakable. They are all pretty kid-proof. Luckily, my kids do not go in and mess with the tree, and our dog is a lot older, so she's not really going in and messing with the tree either. But most of the time, if I break an ornament, it's because of my own fault, which is why most of ours are plastic and pretty inexpensive.
Christmas tree, oh Christmas tree, thy leaves are so unchanging. Not only green.
And the very, very last step is to go in and add all of your traditional ball ornaments. You do have a lot of the other stuff, then you won't need to add as many. But one tip is to add them deeper in the tree. Try not to hook them on the very outside of the tree. You want to make sure that you can see all of the dimensions in the tree, which is why you kind of want to hook them inside the tree. If you have bigger ball ornaments, be sure to add those closer to the bottom of the tree, and then your smaller ones will go upward. So now I have my whole Christmas tree decorated. I'm just missing one thing to connect them together, and I also have a house full of glitter. So the next step is to connect the two trees together, and I want you to be very careful. I put two sections at the bottom because I know that my husband can pick them up, but if you cannot do that, then be as careful as possible. Or just decorate one section at a time and put it up all in one section instead of two sections, which is what we did here.
Christmas tree, oh Christmas tree, thy leaves are so unchanging. Oh Christmas tree, oh Christmas tree, thy leaves are so unchanging.
Once he's got it all up there, then the only time that I need to really get on the ladder is when I'm going in and adjusting that gap between the two pieces. Mainly, I'll go in and fix the lights. I might move a little bit of the ribbon around and also some of the ornaments just so that it all looks even.
Leaves are so unchanging.
I'll give you guys a little bit of living room tour at the end with the final tree, but for now I'm going to work on another section of the living room, which this area is right in front of the TV, and I typically add some of these like frosted branches in these tall vases.
You're on my mind. I don't know how to cope this.
Next, I'm going to go and take my fall wreath down. I'll probably clean off this mirror. It's been probably since last Christmas since I've cleaned off this mirror, but then I'm going to add in another Christmas wreath. So this wreath I got from Home Goods years ago, and those cluster lights that I have in the tree, they match. I also added them to this wreath. So I have two garlands that go in this wreath bag, I guess you can say. One goes on the mantle of the fireplace, and then one goes on the TV console table. So this garland is from Target last year. It's also flocked, and I added my own fairy lights. So these kind of like fairy twinkle lights are the brand Lumineo, and I got these from the company Paul Michael as well, but I think I did find some of these on Amazon. So you typically use a smaller garland up there because the mirror pushes out. The mirror is nailed into the wall some way, and I don't have a lot of space between where I put my Merry Christmas sign and the garland. So that's why it's typically not as thick. The Merry Christmas sign is from Target. I got it last year, and it holds 4 stockings, but you have to be careful because since I can't push it all the way back, it can easily tip forward. The main living room area, the fireplace area, I themed Christmas tree-ish. So I'll have a couple of these Christmas trees in that area. Now these white Christmas trees I also got from that company I keep talking about, Paul Michael, and I'm putting them on either side of the mirror. Next, I'll add the stockings, and these stockings are from Pottery Barn a few years ago. These lanterns I've had for several years, and I typically move them around a lot to different console tables, but I saw one year at Hobby Lobby that they had these lanterns with these Christmas trees built in them. So last year I went to the dollar store and just picked out a couple of these small Christmas trees and then decided to decorate the lanterns by adding the trees in there. Last year I did put some fake snow in there. I just hadn't gotten around to it this year, but that could be an idea that you could use. Now, as I put up a little bit more decor, and I know that you guys are probably watching tons of Christmas decorating videos, and as the point of these is to get tips and ideas, I just want you to take a minute and think back to one of the best moments and memories you ever had during Christmas. Now, that feeling that you experienced, or that moment, that joy and that happiness, I want you to bring it back this year of Christmas 2021. These are the moments and the memories that matter the most. Take the extra time to go down the street and look at Christmas lights, or bake some festive holiday cookies that you've never baked before. We get too caught up in our busy lives, too worried about how much work we have to do or how much we have to clean up, but these are the most important things. These are the good old days that we will look back and cherish, but we can't do that if we're too worried about the unimportant things. And if there's someone here that we're missing, then do it for them. And even if this season you're having a few more Griswold moments than you anticipated, then just laugh it off and make this year memorable.
I'm out of place in a sea full of smiles, walking down Main Street tonight. Got a lot on my mind since you walked out and said, Merry Christmas, babe, give me some time. Holidays are coming and there's no way around. Better join in the holiday crowd, while I'm struggling to find some peace of mind. Merry Christmas, babe, hope you're alright. When you're not here to walk with me, it all seems like a waste.
The bigger garland is from Home Goods, and you can never have enough of those lights. So yes, I added those lights to this garland as well. So now I'm headed back to the original console table that I started off with. Once I got some more decorations out of the attic, I decided to make this area themed with nutcrackers and reindeer.
In this part of town, 6:15.
But make sure you stick around for the last minute or so, because I'll give you a full tour of all the areas that I decorated in the living room. Make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss any of my upcoming Christmas videos.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll talk a cup of kindness yet, for days of